Welcome to INSEAD Perspectives, Spotlight on Asia podcast. I am Samir Hasija, Dean of Asia at INSEAD, the Business School for the World. In this series, I have the pleasure of speaking with INSEAD faculty whose research and teaching span a wide range of business disciplines, as well as with leading decision makers from across the region. Together, we explore some of the most pressing issues shaping business and society today, all through the lens of Asia. In this episode, I am joined by my colleague, Assistant Professor of Organisational Behaviour, Winnie Jiang, to explore the meaning of work in today's society. What does the current wave of AI, especially when combined with the geopolitical uncertainty, mean for individuals, and how can they shape their careers, especially in the context of what's going on in Asia? Winnie, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me here.
I'll go straight to the biggest question that I guess everybody is talking about. I mean, AI, its impact on jobs, the insecurity that it creates, especially in this geopolitical climate where, as it is, there's so much economic uncertainty. A lot of people are really worried about their job security, their careers, and essentially their livelihoods. So, just from your perspective, since you study this quite deeply, what are the deep psychological implications and mechanisms that lead to this kind of insecurity, and what have we observed so far?
Absolutely. So I think it's first important to recognize the nature of the transition this time and the kind of uncertainty it brings. So we are seeing people navigating not just actually more than just economic uncertainty. There is also more existential uncertainty. And the reason I say that is because in the past, and again, there's tons of research that has been already done on how people navigate career transitions, but the kind of transitions this time we are seeing is actually fundamentally different. In the past, the kind of career transitions are what I would call institutionalized. So there is a clear path to follow in some sense. For example, if you want to move from journalism to law or from being a banker to being a baker, you have sort of training programs, you have credentials you need to obtain, and maybe some networking you need to do to enter that field. And all you need to do is to decide what kind of the next job or profession you want to enter, maybe by looking at employment data, which one seems more secure, and talking to people who are already doing this for many years, and does it sound interesting to you? But right now, we are moving from institutionalized career transitions to largely uninstitutionalized career changes. And first is because it's becoming more difficult to identify a safe and stable next step, because AI is, and also the other forces like geopolitical conflicts, is reshaping, even COVID, right, recently, is making every career path unstable and unpredictable. It's disrupting the traditional path to success, right? So that is number one. And second is that even though you sort of know what is the next destination you want to go into, the path to get in there is also becoming less clear and more unpredictable because AI is changing how we learn skills, how we sort of, and it's making companies hire fewer juniors, where that's the sort of traditional path. People get training, right, and enter a new profession. And that is all not there, in the near future. So because of these two reasons, people are feeling a deeper sense of anxiety, I think. They may not be able to articulate exactly why, but they know this time seems very different. Apparently, it's also impacting more people, right? A sort of a broader range of professionals who need to navigate this kind of uninstitutionalized transition. But I think largely they need to ask not just what job or profession I want to do, like before. They also are starting to think about what does having a job even mean in this age and time, and what does work mean to me or will look like to me in this age and time. So I think that's the deeper psychological impact that we are feeling right now among many, many people.
And just to pick a little bit on this, I mean, this is interesting because I was not thinking about the transition bit. I was only thinking about the current job, like holding holding the current job and making sure that I am productively employed. And you've also talked about the career transition, which is a little bit more forward-looking things. And if I understood you correctly, you're saying both are sources of anxiety in some sense, because I don't know whether I'll hold my current job. And even if I'm holding it, I have no idea, or maybe I have an idea, but it's fairly uncertain now how my career will evolve. Do you see that there is a particular dominance of one of these anxieties, the current versus the future? Is there some trend there, or it's a mixture of all these anxieties coming together?
Yeah.
Or is there something more systematic about it?
I think, of course, it varies across individuals, right? Some people are more concerned about how do I hold on to my current job and remain competitive and relevant. And other people are already thinking much ahead in terms of, well, because nobody can guarantee I will still hold on to this job anyways, I might as well start to prepare ahead, for myself and think more proactively what I can do. So I see mixture. Yeah.
And now, and I make sense, right? This is an individual trait. Perhaps it also depends on what career are you in, and many other effects, right? Like, what's your family situation, et cetera, et cetera. So I can completely understand it's a mixture. But now if I go to an individual, what do we know that can help them deal with this anxiety? And we also know that, AI, which is perhaps one of the biggest impacts, the geopolitical stuff, hopefully it's reversible, right? That the world goes back to some order of stability geopolitically. I hope so. But AI, this technology is only going to become more and more sophisticated at a much and much higher speed.
Yeah.
So if people have to deal with anxiety that this is creating in terms of their jobs and careers, what can be done for them to be able to deal with it better?
Yeah, so we can look at the two kinds of populations, you're talking about earlier separately, right? The people who want to hold on to their current job as long as they could, and what they can do to sort of contain the anxiety and keep them competitive as long as possible, right? So I have been studying, individual professionals who are mostly working on like platforms like Upwork, because they're like one-man shop and they have large incentives to keep them competitive. And what I observed that those who are actually staying competitive and very attractive, to their clients are those who are really actively experimenting AI and make them the experts in working with AI when it comes to their specific role and function. So it may be paradoxical that, if you want to stay competitive, it's not that you avoid AI, which many people may think that is the approach. I just resist using it and I keep sort of putting my foot on my strength. And it's actually that you should develop two things. One is active experimentation to allow you to know what AI tools work best for your kind of task and how to use it, like what kind of prompts actually help you deliver the best results. And then second is the evaluative judgments you can use to evaluate what the outputs of AI, are they good enough? Are they high quality? And how to actually improve them still using AI. And because you have been the one that have been doing this job, right, hands-on for a long time, you are well positioned to have that evaluative judgmental ability, right? So I think, for people who want to hold on to their job as much as possible, you want to actually put yourself as sort of prepare yourself to become the experts of working with AI in that job in particular. And for those who are thinking ahead, in terms of what I should do, what I can do, and I think a lot needs to be done in sort of their own reinterpretation of what this means to their work life and their career. And rather than being sort of overwhelmed by the anxiety, and they actually need to do a lot more internal introspective work in terms of, what is my core value purpose that I can hold on to, and how can I experiment different things, explore different activities, and maybe try multiple different roles and put them together into a portfolio that align with that core value and purpose to sort of realize that into the career I will have moving forward.
It's very interesting. Winnie, just to dig a little bit deeper on this, I think what you're suggesting is it makes so much sense, and people really need to go down this path. But we also observe that people are not. I mean, some are, of course, and some are not. And in fact, the gap is now going to become bigger and bigger. And that's so the question that's always on my mind is, what is stopping people? Is it paralysis because of the anxiety? Is it because they are in some sort of denial? Is it because of instant gratification? They don't get it. So if you don't get something which is instantly satisfying and gratifying, you perhaps don't invest in it because the benefits are slightly out there. And I don't understand. But there must be deep research which tells us why people are not doing these steps, which is, from what you're saying, almost necessary now.
Indeed. So I mentioned that there's tons of research that has been already done on how to support people in navigating career transitions, right? Some of those insights are helpful, right? Like those insights are suggesting you need to help people, right, identify with a new role and experiment, themselves by sort of trying out different activities in the new role. But those new role is established there, has existed for many years, and they know sort of the kind of activities they need to try it out. But right now we don't have those sort of established role for people to go into. So I would say we still need a lot more knowledge in terms of how people navigate an uninstitutionalized transition where there's no established script to follow. But of course, different people are different, and the kind of thing that hold them back, that creates such resistance, can be different. But what you want to see is that people will have their sort of agency and ability, to turn what may seem as something very scary into something that's an exciting opportunity. So that reinterpretation, is key in sort of driving more people into embracing this, celebrating this change, rather than sort of being fearful of taking the first step outwards. And I also feel that reinterpretative support is what's needed more, maybe from educational institutions, from companies, from government, to provide for the individuals to actually sort of overcome their own emotional barriers to take that first step.
And have you seen some organizations do this, help their employees on this journey? And would you like to share the examples? Perhaps you may not be able to give the names if there is some NDA, but maybe just the narrative and the story.
Yeah, of course. So, and that's how I sort of developed the idea of how companies can provide better reinterpretive support, for their employees. So I've been doing this field research in a Chinese automobile company that has been very aggressive and ambitious in pushing the AI transformation in their firm. Initially, they provide what many companies are now providing for the employees, which is reskilling support. Okay, so they will give a lot of workshops and send employees to training programs in terms of sort of learning how to use AI, different AI tools, and then encourage them to actually apply them into their jobs. But the narratives they are giving, around sort of providing this reskilling support to the employees is that, well, we have to do this as a company, right? So that we can remain competitive in this tough market, and also, to help us save costs when you use more technologies, right? And from the employees' perspectives, they are receiving it, as a message that's, okay, if I actually learn the skills and use it, because you're trying to stay competitive and save costs, does that mean that you're going to just kick me out, right? So what I'm observing in the company is that these employees are participating in the reskilling workshops, programs the company is providing. Well, they couldn't say no, they have to go. But they're not using what they learned into their job. And then the leadership started to notice too, after I share some of these observations and insights. And they start to try to think about how to provide this reinterpretative support so that they will, shift the narratives, right? From being, okay, cost saving, competitive, into, well, we are trying to help you as the employees, as the individuals, see what kind of tasks you're currently doing is just too boring, too mundane, and you actually don't want to engage in them in your job, and how you can actually delegate those to AI tools. So you can free yourself up to do more interesting, exciting stuff, which can bring more values to our company as well. And that change narratives, help the employees reinterpret what this reskilling really means to them, right? It's not that I have to do it, so that the company can stay ahead, which may mean that I will be falling behind, right? But actually, they now go into these reskilling programs, this training, these workshops, saying that, well, I want to learn this by myself. I want to learn this skill so that, I can know how to make my work more meaningful and how to bring higher value to not just the company, but also myself. So I start to see that, providing this reinterpretive support in addition to and paired up with the reskilling support is very effective in changing the employees' attitudes toward these technologies. And I also see that actually at the country level, I really want to mention, is more anecdotal. This one is not really research based, but I see China, has been making a really, really visible efforts in sort of bringing AI and robotics sort of new technologies into the public space. And, like a very salient example is they put, together these robot martial arts dance performance in this like Chinese New Year National Gala show, right? And they are now putting together this robots Olympics. And of course, this is showcasing, the technological capabilities now the country can deliver. But I think there is something also very subtle and very powerful that they are doing, which is to change the public's sentiments and narratives and attitudes toward this technology. So just to maybe zoom in on that robotic martial arts dance performance they, feature in the Chinese New Year National Gala. And that's a sort of a show that every family, will be watching, right, when they are enjoying a wonderful dinner with their family members, on the Chinese New Year's Eve. And that's a time where nobody will talk about negative things. That's a time that everybody is feeling joy, is feeling sort of warmness, right, with their family. And they're in that positive mindset, watching robots. And it automatically will generate, right, discussions around, wow, these robots can do so much. But it also sort of naturally steer people into the positive interpretation of these robots. And I experienced it personally because I brought my kids, back to China. And my great-grandmother is like very excited, about using this AI. And my, 50-year-old uncles, 60-year-old aunt, sorry about, revealing your age. But they are all very, very positive. And I think this is something quite unique. You don't see that sort of positivity that, people at, across different age groups are showing collectively to these new technologies. And I think what this kind of action the country is doing is really gradually shaping people's receptivity and openness, to this kind of technologies. And that can actually put them in a more advantageous position when it comes to implementing them.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, Winnie, thanks a lot. This is this fascinating stuff. Yeah. And I think in particular in the Asian context, this actually means quite a lot, right? Yeah. So think about it. We've always talked about in developing economies, there is a trade-off between efficiency and employment. Countries like India, countries like Philippines, China as well, they want to employ people because, there's still a lot of unemployment and more importantly, people need to move up in their socioeconomic ability. whereas these countries need to remain competitive in the world. And your first example that you gave from the company, I like that because that is not a discussion about where you are on the efficiency frontier. What this company said is that we're just going to change the frontier. We're just going to find a new frontier. So it's not like I need to reduce my workforce by 20%, which is what we are seeing a lot of the tech companies, global giants do.
Yeah.
But what they're saying is that, hey, can I actually create more value, upskilling, reskilling these folks and take them to a different plane? At the same time, there may not be employment growth the way we perhaps saw in the past when there was a lot of manual work. And so your second part of your narrative is telling me, and please correct me if I'm interpreting this incorrectly, is that the younger generation who will be entering the workforce, they're going to come in with much more freedom and much more agility to play around with these technologies, yet making themselves relevant to either organizations or perhaps become entrepreneurs or whatever it is that they do. But the issue of long-term employability may not be as stark as we are making it out to be, as long as the mindset is towards either shifting the efficiency frontier or getting these younger ones excited about what they can do with this technology. Am I hearing you correctly?
Yeah. So, well, back to that example of the Chinese company I've been studying. What I'm seeing also right now is some unintended, consequences. That's actually a positive thing, I think for both the company and the individuals, is that once they sort of integrated the reinterpretative support with the reskilling support, we see the employees, more sort of engage themselves in the reskilling programs because they want to do it. They're doing it for themselves. But we also start to see some employees leaving the company themselves, out of their own choice. And they're like, wow, I start to see, I can have a lot more opportunities, and I have already learned these AI tools. And eventually, maybe I can do something myself that I've been always wanting to do, but didn't have the gut, to do it. And they actually take a leap of faith to actually leave themselves and to sort of start something on their own. I think this is suggesting that the employees are feeling also more empowered, right? Like in this time by AI. And then in addition to that, what I'm also seeing is that, I think there's a global shift already, happened from many years ago about people's expectation of what they want to get from their work or their career, right? Before, work is mainly a source of income. But right now, globally, including in Asia, right, the younger generations are asking more, from their work. They want it to be an important source of meaning for them, right? Whether they get the meaning from sort of, doing something they're interested in the job, or actually delivering some pro-social impact on a community they care a lot about. So that is a global trend that is sort of being also happening in Asia, but traditionally, that also comes with more tension in Asia, sort of the focus on gaining personal meaning, from work, that always comes with more tension in Asia, because I wouldn't generalize to all countries in Asia, but many major countries here, they have the collectivistic culture and more particularly the faith culture. And what that kind of cultural mindset is doing to the individuals is that there is a lot more expectation or pressure, right, coming from their family to sort of force them to associate an objective career success to a family's pride, to even intergenerational mobility, for the family. So that's been, I think the case in Asia for many individuals is that they cannot just actually see, choosing a career as a personal choice, and it's actually a responsibility they feel for their entire family, that they achieve some sort of career status, stability, and wealth, So historically, it's been that many individuals in Asia feel the need to first prove themselves, right? To follow the established path to success, to to gain the security, gain the financial stability and the status before they feel the freedom to pursue something that they see as more meaningful, while that may not be as prestigious or financially rewarding. So that has been sort of, I think, the observations I have, made in Asia. But right now, I think with AI, it may actually sort of reduce that pressure and expectations coming from, family or the societal level in Asia, because now, nobody can tell which career is going to promise you the stability and the status anymore, right? And everything is becoming unpredictable. So the sort of breaking down of that clarity of like what is the thing you should do so that you can guarantee a stable life is no longer here. And I have sort of been talking with a lot of younger new graduates out of college, and they're saying, because nothing seems stable or secure anymore, my parents are like, why not? You just do something you find interesting and make something out of your own. And these, younger kids were telling me, I was like, wow, I would not expect my parents to say that to me, right? I think in some way, maybe it can create more openness in such a collectivist culture and a faith culture, for people to actually do something they find personally meaningful and, find something that works on their own. Yeah.
Winnie, this is fascinating. This
Yeah.
is changing my perspective.
Yeah.
I started off by asking you about anxiety and mental anguish and uncertainty. And what you're telling me is that this uncertainty, on the flip side, can create freedom.
Yeah.
And allow people to actually look for meaning in their work. And if they engage in a proper manner, and if they have the reconstruction, is that was the term you read?
I actually would use the word reinvention.
Reinvention.
Yeah.
It can be liberating and fulfilling at the same time.
Yeah.
Not to mention the economic returns. I mean, for how long will Asia remain the factory floor or the back office of the West? I mean, this is a great opportunity for all more meaningful entrepreneurial work come out, and we actually are seeing that come out of China. Of course, I mean it's unbelievable, and now India and many other parts of Asia. So it's actually quite fascinating. I love the positive spin on this, because it does not, in my opinion, take a lot to see how true that narrative is if one just looks deeper and reshapes what's in their mind. That then brings me to INSEAD. I know you're involved in many projects related to these ideas, including what we do in our classrooms. Can you share a little bit about what INSEAD is doing when it comes to understanding how people should find meaning in their work, how should they think about their careers, how should they think about their jobs, etc., etc.?
Yeah, it's especially in this time and age when I said, the transitions they are going to encounter, the kind of career they are going to build will be very, very different, right, from before. So, well, you are the Dean of Executive Education here. We're already doing tremendous things, right, to sort of help firms and leaders leverage AI. Like we have this AI for Business program. We have the leading AI and digital transformation program and all sorts of things. So I think we have already put a very strong focus on firms and leaders, how to support them, right, in using AI to bring more success. And we also have this AI venture lab, right, that help entrepreneurs think about how to leverage AI more effectively to build more successful business. So, but what I'm personally really excited about, and I think there is an opportunity for INSEAD to sort of go further, is the area of supporting individuals to navigate these uninstitutionalized transition. So I've been in the process of thinking about refining the idea, and hopefully soon we'll launch this INSEAD Career Reinvention Lab. So like I mentioned before, I purposefully wanted to use the word reinvention because now the career changes are not institutionalized anymore. So I don't want to just call it a transition, right? To make people think that, oh, this is just another program that help us think about how to make career changes like before. No, now it requires people to actively invent and reinvent continuously, what work means to them and will look like to them. And we already have a lot of research insights based on institutionalized career transitions. Some of those are useful, and we can test, like whether that's actually going to be useful. But we need a lot more knowledge on how to actually help people better navigate an uninstitutionalized career transition. For example, like I mentioned, reinterpretative support. I think that's very much needed in this age and time. But we still don't have enough knowledge and evidence-based tools to help companies and organizations know, well, what is the best way to provide such reinterpretative support? And what is the best way to provide this to different populations with different personalities or profiles? And how can we actually scale it up to a national level so we can, better prepare our workforce for this transitions and change? And that is something I wanted to do. I want to study more through the INSEAD Career Reinvention Lab, to make it a living laboratory to study and support people and give organizations the insights in how to best prepare the people for this kind of change and transition.
Winnie, it's a fascinating vision, and handling executive education, as you said, at INSEAD, I can tell you that many organizations, if not all, would be very excited about this for various reasons. All of them, and rightfully so, want to make sure that their employees are supported and have the ability to reinvent themselves, because companies see value in that, plain and simple. And those who don't are dangerously getting close to redundancy, right? So everybody sees that, the urgency of doing so. I think it's a critical thing for organizations. And we all look very excitedly forward to seeing the insights that this work generates.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll be able to bring you back and share those insights and take it from there.
Thank you. I would love to do that.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us once more, Winnie.
Of course, pleasure to be here. And thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts.
Thank you.